Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to talk about this crazy stock. So this stock, it exploded about 70% in just one day. This company is called MaxLinear. So today we are going to talk about this company. So firstly, it does not make any GPUs and it doesn't train any AI model, right? But honestly, it's not the first company most people think about when they hear the phrase AI chip stock. So but after their latest earnings, this company they exploded around like 70%, and I just so shocked, right? I have never seen this kind of stock. So the question is like, why? Why? The question is why? Be- they just beat the earning, or the real question is, did this market just change what kind of company this MaxLinear is? So because this move was not only about one quarter, so in my view, this actually was about identity. Okay, so for years, this company they look like a very traditional communication chip company, right? So they are not usually the center of the AI story because they sold the chips into things like the cable modem, right? The broadband gateways, the Wi-Fi system, access networks, and stuff like this traditional communication infrastructure. Yes, they actually real business, but they are not the business that you think of. Well, actually related to the AI hardware super cycle. So the old label was super simple. They are just a semiconductor company, a signal semiconductor company. So this kind of company they usually gets a very normal semiconductor valuation, right? It does not usually get treated like a high growth AI infrastructure asset. But the latest quarter, it changed the question. So the question now is, what if they it's not just an old not old chip company? What if they become the part of the business being put into the AI data center build out? Right? So to understand why this matter, we need to understand one thing about the AI data centers. So the AI data center is not just like a pile of GPUs, right? It's not just one NVIDIA's GPU. It's more like a giant factory. You can see here. The GPUs actually you can think of as a workers. So the HBM, the memory, they are the fast notebook sitting next to each worker, but the factory also needs roads, the loading docks, the traffic lights, and a logistics system because all the workers, right? They need to move the material back and forth constantly. That is the data, right? So in AI, these materials are data, okay? And if the data they cannot move fast enough, the GPU have to wait, right? So that's the key point. If the GPU are waiting for the data, let's say that the most expensive machine in the data center are sitting idle. That does not make sense, right? That is why AI infrastructure is not only a compute problem, it's more like a data movement problem. So training and running large AI system, it requires thousands, or tens of thousands of chips. They have to work together. So data have to move from GPU to GPU. They have to move from server to server. Those data they have to move from rack to rack, and sometimes from cluster to cluster. So when you use ChatGPT, when you ask some question, it actually have a very long way to go, those data. So as the system scales, the bottlenecks shift. So at first the question is like, do we have enough GPUs? Then the question can be like, can all the GPUs communicate fast enough? So right now the problem is like how to solve the fast problem, right? This is where the optical connectivity, the high-speed interconnect, and the signal integrity become more and more important. And that's the reason why we have taught this kind of company in our previous videos. And that is where MaxLinear enters this story. So MaxLinear, they make high-speed signal processing chips used inside their optical modules and their interconnect system. So actually, the two simple one are the DSPs and the TIA. So a DSP actually is a digital signal processor. So what it is? So it's like a translator and correction system for those massive high-speed data. Let's say that when the data it travels extremely fast, the signal could be degraded, right? So think of someone speaking very quickly from across a noisy room, right? The message arrives distorted. The DSP here can clean up that signal so the receiving system can understand it clearly. And then the second piece is TIA. So TIA stands for Transmittance Amplifier, but it's just an amplifier, okay? But the simple version is more like the amplifier at the door. So in fiber optical connection, the data arrive as light, right? Then the light you have to transfer it into electrical signal, right? Before the chip can process it. So the first signal is very weak. So the TIA here, they amplify it and stabilize it. This is what MaxLinear is trying to supply into the AI data center. Not a GPU, not the server, right? Not a GPU, not the server, not the entire optical module, but some of the control chips that help data move clearly at a very extreme speed. So the company, they has 400 gigabytes and 800 GB Keystone DSPs, and it has a newer, it's a gray DSP. They have gray TIAs. So their product is really great in the Washington area, and so because of that, the more and more AI data center they have to build, right? So they will like to buy MaxLinear's product. Okay, and then we have to talk about this. Let's talk about some financial numbers here. Yeah, so that is the reason why the stocks exploded so much. So in the Q1 2026, they reported around the revenue of $137 million. So it was up around like 43% year over year, and their gross margin was about like 59%. So this number actually are very solid, right? But they are not the most important part. So what is the most important part? The most important part is that their infrastructure revenue grow more than 130% year over year, and the infrastructure become their like largest end market. So this is the sentence that actually changed the whole story. So right now, the management, they said that okay, this growth was driven primarily by the optical data center products and hyperscale customer. So if this were only broadband recover, it would be a cyclical rebound. Interestingly, but not structurally different. But if the optical data center connectivity is becoming the main growth engine, then investors have to ask a very different question. It's like, is MaxLinear being pulled into the AI hardware supercycle? Right? So their Q2 guide made that question even more important. So management, they guided their Q2 revenue to $160 to $170 million. The midpoint is $165 million. So Wall Street had reportedly expected around like 37 million. This is not a small difference. This is why the market reacts so violently. This is the reason why this stock exploded so much. It was not just saying, okay, nice earning bit, wow, just bit earning. It was saying like, this time, maybe this company is entering a new revenue region, right? That's a new category change. But this is where I want to be careful, because MaxLinear, they are not they are not a core AI center here, right? They are not NVIDIA. They do not own their AI compute stack like CUDA of NVIDIA, right? And it does not control the platform. Yes, but I would not call it really irreplaceable, because in my framework, I think I will put this company in this place. I think it will become a more and more important player in this category, the optical interconnect, and so we have to watch more signal to know what actually they're going in the future, right? And yeah, there are some real risks here. The first one is the stock price itself, right? It exploded 70% in just one day. So after a move like that, the timing now is not very clean, right? A lot of reverse surprise is already in this price. And secondly, it's not yet a pure AI company right now, because in 2025, the broadband application were about 44% of the revenue. The AI infrastructure revenue was about 32%. So the old business is still very real. The third one is their profit, their EPS. Right now is still negative, so we have to watch out, right? And the fourth one is the customer concentration. So they point out that in 2025, two customers were 28% of revenue. Then the top 10 customer was 65%. So this means that a few big customers can move the numbers a lot. And the last one is competition. The competition is serious. So this is a very crowded and technical layer. So you got a Broadcom, you got a Marvell, you got a Credo, you got a lot of others that are touching adjacent part of high-speed connectivity and signal integrity. So I want to be very clear about the competitive landscape here. So you can see this picture. So MaxLinear right now, they are not the dominant player in this sector. So the first one is, you can see the Broadcom. Broadcom is actually a much bigger platform player. It has switched silicon. They got a custom AI chip. They got network chips and stuff like that. And more important thing is they have a very deep hyperscaler relationship, right? So you can see Broadcom is a very broader, is a deeper, is a more proven player, and MaxLinear is more smaller, right? And then you got Marvell, and Marvell is more established in optical DSPs, especially after they acquiring a company called Infile. They have a very strong position in the optical connectivity. So if we are talking about the certainty, so Marvell is more like a proven one. So MaxLinear is still a challenger, and the third one is Credo. That's the company we analyzed in our last video. Right now, surely they are the more cleaner and a strong player here. They associate with a lot of active like electrical cables, real timers, and stuff like that in their electrical connectivity. So yes, they are a bigger player, and so my point here is like they are not the dominant player, but because right now I think it is the boom of the optical interconnected sector, so we can watch out more small company like that. Okay, and after that, that's my take here. I think after a 70% day, exploded, we should put this company in our watch list. So if there is a dip, I might consider hold a light position. And in the next 2 or 3 quarters, we have to watch out their earnings to have a better or complete understanding of what is this company and how their business works in the future. But again, my point here is like the AI hardware boom, the AI hardware super cycle is here, and we have to pay more attention to this kind of sectors. And that's it. That's today's video. If you like this video, please subscribe and like. See you in next video. Bye.